Just want to cover a little bit of the orbs and my opinion on them, on what you should be using for each class for PvE and PvP. So let's start. The first thing you should be aware is that depending on the class, it's gonna depend a lot on the orb that you're gonna use. For PvE, mostly the orbs that you're gonna want to use, of course, is a legendary orb with different passive. But if you cannot have the legendary orb, mostly what you're gonna want to use is the shadowy sphere. That is because the shadowy sphere makes your stellar dash cooldown, which is the pew pew lasers, decrease when you use it. Basically, you're gonna be wanting to spam it, as it's the skill that's gonna do the most damage for you. But that's actually not the case entirely. While this is the best for damage wise, let's say you're using an X-Bow, right? X-Bow orb. Then for sure you're gonna want this one. But in case you're not using an X-Bow orb or you don't have the mark for the bow to reset your skills often, Greyar Sinister is actually really strong. You can use that with your Milky Way to keep your balls uptime 24/7. So you can use like 3 balls and you can like keep refreshing, increasing their duration, right? And every time you do that, you're gonna increase it by 0.5 seconds, the duration of the balls, which means you can have uptime of longer and of an uptime on the orb that's gonna be bigger than the CD for the Milky Way. The Milky Way is the skill that moves the 3 balls together, and this resets the duration of the balls. That's important because every time you cast the 3 balls, you actually lose quite a bit of time because the casting is pretty slow. So by using Milky Way, not only you can keep doing a lot of DPS with the spec that increases the stacks of the damage, but you don't need to waste time recasting the 3 balls. So that's why it's really important to do this. And that's why it's really useful to use this one. If you don't have the cooldown to keep Shadowy Sphere 24/7 basically. The only reason you would not want to use this is in case you have over 75% cooldown, because if you have over 75% cooldown, you can keep already 24/7 the balls uptime. I included the Manticus balls because I think it has potential for both PvP and PvE for damage, and I didn't manage to get one or see anyone using it yet. I just think it's an interesting extra damage, but I didn't get to see it properly used. For PvE, those are mostly the orbs you're gonna use. The exception here is gonna be the E.Tevent, which you can use to decrease, in that case, increase the debuff duration of the enemy, which you can combo with classes that have dots, let's say like the staff, but it's gonna be mostly the one with the curses. So the E.Tevent orb with E.Tevent 1 or Deckman, the Deckman 1, both are gonna be effective. And overall, if you're using like a E.Tevent or a orb and E.Tevent 1 with the E.Tevent 1 being upgraded, you're gonna be really strong in almost every party because you're gonna be the double debuff in the boss, the defense with the E.Tevent 1, and the debuff duration with the E.Tevent orb. And the E.Tevent orb is not only useful for the damage part, because it increases all of the debuffs, so that means the marks of the bow are gonna last longer, and any of the other debuffs that might decrease or like affect the boss defense is gonna last longer. You get the idea. The E.Tevent orb is very useful overall. Of course, the problem with both of those is you can see the max damage goes 92, 170, and the heroic orbs simply give you like 20 to 25% extra damage other than heroic traits, which are also going to increase your damage by quite a bit. So if you can, you want to go for the legendary orb with the passive of the shadowy sphere if you're using a crossbow. If you don't have the cooldown to keep up time of the orb the entire time, so you can use the Milky Way, you're probably gonna want to use the Greyar Sinister. And if you're playing something more cursey or like dots is less supportive for the extra of the party, you want to use the E.Tevent Ice. That's for PvE. The Manticus I'm not gonna opine because I didn't see anyone playing with it. I didn't find any gameplay from it, so I cannot comment on it yet. But for PvP, let's see. For PvP, if you're playing healer, straight up, the orbs that you're gonna probably be interested are gonna be the Talos one, because it's gonna increase the shield that you give to other people, right? You're gonna give more shields, an extra shield. Or you're gonna be wanting to use the temporal leap with the Nexus here. This one makes you get like damage reduction when you use the temporal leap during and after, so it's really strong actually. And the last two ones are Dark Bosses, which is the Cardi, of course, is gonna just make everyone invulnerable to collision, which is strong, really strong. And the extra debuff, same as the PvE version. If you cannot afford any of those two, which is gonna be 90% of the player base, try to get the Talos one. If you cannot get the Talos one, then get this Azure Nexus one, is gonna be your best choice for the healer / supportive. That's the same thing for the tanks. If you cannot grab any of those two, which is probably gonna be the case, then grab one of those two. Now for DPS, it's interesting. For PvP DPS, what you're gonna be wanting, of course, is always to grab the Kalantia one, because of course the legendary has a bunch of stats and you can upgrade your damage by a lot. For example, I'm using the E.Tevent right now because I was doing tests, but the damage that I lose from not using the legendary orb is quite relevant, plus the status. So you really want to aim for the legendary. But for the weapons itself, the ones that you want to use, you actually can use Azure Nexus. It's pretty strong regardless. I don't know about the Manticus one because, like I said, I didn't see the gameplay, but this one is overall still really strong. But if you're going for a very offensive build, some people recommend the Shadowy Sphere. Personally, I don't think it's really that good for PvP. I think like while Stellar Dash is amazing, it's a really good skill. It's probably the best skill that you have, and the cooldown it decreases. The cooldown, in my opinion, is already short enough that you can like go for other options. Unless you're using the legendary, then you can use the passive, sure, and then you can do PvE and PvP. But I personally think if you can pick the Near Zartun, I don't know how to say that, is the best offensive orb at the moment. I think it's really strong, the fact that you can use it. You can use the Summon Constellations, which is the skill that throws 3 balls and leaves 3 balls. And then you can use the Milky Way, which moves the 3 balls. So you can literally just like do Summon Constellation on the same target, then Milky Way on top of the same target, and most of the times with the right specs, which is a damage boost, which is going to be max stack by this point, you're going to already kill the target. So you can combo this with like a E.Tevent Dagger and just literally get targets with this. And in case the target's not dead after doing like the Summon and Milky Way, you can literally just do the pew 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 shooting with the Stellar Dash. And most of the time he's gonna die. Unless he has a reaction, he can block properly, but most of the time he should be dead. I don't have the clip right now, but you can see on my other video, I did one shot on a guy that had almost like 36k HP, and I didn't even get to use the stellar dash part, the shooting pew pew. The best part of this is it's a tier 3 weapon, so if you don't have the legendary, which is similar to my case, it's the best one when it comes to the max damage. And on top of that, the status are really good. The critical hit chance is like one of the best status for the glass cannon / offensive style. The bonus damage is also nice, not the best, but it's nice. When, for example, compared to the E.Tevent, which I like the E.Tevent, it's great for bombing, but when it comes to playing glass cannon and killing people, the E.Tevent is not really ideal because it's really slow. It is Supernova Collapse, requires a lot of setup, is really slow, takes a lot of time to like, it's very easy to get cancelled or one-shotted in the current way the game is played. So it's very hard to use. It depends a lot on the weekend, so if you hit a tank or a healer, you're not gonna proc the effect very often, because you're gonna be running glass cannon builds, right? The status are not really good because you have less damage, because it's just, even the ascended version, this is the ascended version, the normal tier 1 version has even less damage. Sorry, I was gonna include it, let me just check it for you, it's because I don't want to ruin the graphic here. But yeah, it has like 172 max damage, which is worse. So you're losing quite a bit of damage. And the status, like I said, Fortitude is really bad. The range is really nice. Is actually one of the best status here, the perception, the range. but you don't really need a lot of range if you're gonna play with the invis and with the damage part, because you're just gonna put the 3 balls, and as long as you have around 15 to 20 meters, you should be fine. That should be like the perfect spot for the range that you should be aiming for. So if you actually have to pick between E.Tevent one and the Nezartum, I actually recommend Nezartum if you don't have the legendary one. If you have the legendary one, like I said, you can play either of this, or this, right? This is gonna be for your Star Dash, this is for more defensives, this is for debuffs on combos, and this is just for an extra combo to kill. Personally, I would go with the Nerzaton Orb regardless. I think it's the best out of them in status. And I would use the E.Tevent one in case you really need to combo and want to play with the combo style. But from my personal experience, sorry for stalling too much, I'm trying to figure out things while talking. But I tested a weekend build, trying to focus on doing combos with some evasion with the E.Tevent. My results were mixed. They were not the best, but they were not the worst. You do a decent chunk of damage, you do a lot of weaken, you apply all the effects from the dagger and other things, but it doesn't feel that great. It doesn't kill fast. It feels really slow and sluggish for the state of the game, which is basically invis, one tap someone in 3 skills, and invis again, right? It's really the gameplay right now. It's terrible for combo / long / slow classes. It just simply does not pay off. 95% of the times you're just gonna die before doing anything. So I cannot really recommend this style right now. I would go for the Nerzaton Orb with the E.Tevent Dagger, or the Shadow Sphere with the E.Tevent Dagger, preferably if you can the Legendary Orb. If you cannot, that's fine. It should work just as fine. But yeah, that's mostly it. So the E.Tevent Orb is if you're playing either a healer, an SNS, or a more trying weakened combo style, but it's not that effective. The Shadow Sphere, if you have the legendary one. If you don't have the legendary one, I actually would go with the Nezartum Orb and just go full glass cannon right now. I don't have all the builds yet because I want to make a proper build guide showing like what builds you can do from zero, like from the Hyper Boost packs. What builds you can do that are going to be more affordable, things like that. So this is going to take a little bit longer, but I wanted to put this video out just to show like my thoughts on the weapon so far. I just really wanted to test the Magicals one, but I didn't get the chance to grab one, so it is what it is. Thank you for watching, see ya.